everyone, and welcome. I'm Laura Lerf, one of our Family and Community Engagement Specialists. This webinar is brought to you by Chesapeake Public Schools Office of Family and Community Engagement, or FACE. Joining me today is my colleague, Ms. Lisa Carey. We are with the Department of Communications under the umbrella of Chesapeake Education Foundation, directed by Mrs. Andrea Vail. Our office seeks to create meaningful partnerships in order to inspire, engage, and empower families, educators, and community agencies to support the initiatives of Chesapeake Public Schools. Please check out our website at www.cpschools.com and follow us on Twitter at CPSFace. I'm excited to have joining us tonight Dr. Michael Dunbar, principal of Hugo Owens Middle, Ms. Carrie Smith, assistant principal of Oscar Smith Middle, Mrs. Rachel Dangerfield, counselor at Deep Creek Middle, Mrs. Vicki Moore, counseling director at Western Branch Middle, Ms. Veronica Heron, special education teacher at Greenbrier Middle, Mrs. Angela Small, teacher at Great Bridge Middle, and last but not least, Ms. Angie Donner, Technology Integration Specialist at Hugo Owens Middle. They will be sharing their expertise in the transitioning of sixth graders to middle school. Tonight's agenda will include administrative advice from Dr. Dunbar and Ms. Smith, counselor comments from Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Dangerfield, teacher tips from Mrs. Small and Ms. Heron, followed by technology tools from Mrs. Donner. As a special treat tonight, we will have a student survey at the end of our webinar for students to earn a prize. Parents, we have opened the Q&A feature, so please feel free to use this for your questions throughout the webinar. School-specific questions can be addressed individually by contacting your child's school counselor and/or administrator. If you have a COVID-related question, please use the Let's Talk app found on the main CP Schools website. At this time, I would like to turn the program over to Dr. Dunbar and Ms. Smith.
Good evening, everyone. We are excited to be with you here tonight to talk about moving up to middle school. As we start tonight's program, I wanted to take a few moments to review a few components of the middle school model. Within the middle school model, each grade level acts as a school within a school. That means our sixth grade babies are essentially with sixth graders all day long, seventh grade is with seventh grade all day long, and eighth grade is with eighth grade all day long. So as they transition, they definitely have time to grow into the middle school concept. With grade level teams, each student is assigned one, and this allows students to have the support they need for academic and social emotional needs. Each student is assigned a team, and throughout the year, this provides that supportive group of core teachers that make sure that they are building relationships with students and able to build relationships with families as well. The great part about it, while they're assigned a grade level team, they're allowed some choice with their elective classes. With this choice, this helps students explore and expand their interest. Lastly, the middle school model allows students to foster positive relationships and experiences in a supportive environment. While we want to support students in the middle school model, we also want to allow them opportunities and extracurricular activities. Extracurricular activities that are offered in middle school are Chesapeake Middle School League Athletics. This is broken into 3 sports seasons: fall, winter, and spring. The fall season is football and softball, winter, boys, girls basketball and wrestling, and spring, boys and girls track, field hockey, and volleyball. Cheer runs concurrently through the fall and winter seasons. This is standard for all 10 middle schools. Clubs are held at each school, but each school is able to personalize clubs to fit the needs of their student interests. That's the great part about middle school. We take a lot of pride in getting to know our students and making sure that they understand exactly what we have to offer, and we get to know them, and we give them a chance to have student voice in what they would like for us to offer. The benefits of participating in extracurricular activities at the middle school level are continued sense of community and connection. This allows students to foster positive relationships with students throughout the school, expand interests, and present opportunities to represent your school. At this time, I'll hand it over to Dr. Dunbar.
Good evening. Before I start my presentation, I just want to make two general statements. First, I'm a firm believer in positive behavior intervention and support. So I actually did my dissertation and sustaining it beyond a 5-year implementation. Next, I want to clear the names of all the administrators in the Chesapeake Public Schools because oftentimes we catch a bad rap. We often look at as the long arm of the law, the judge and the jury, or we just don't understand. But the truth of the matter is we do understand. A lot of us were students in the past. Well, we were all students in the past. And some of us actually have students of our own right now. So the truth of the matter is we do understand where you come from. What we try to do is we actually try to avoid exclusionary practices such as ISS or OSS. We would much rather give you rewards for positive behavior rather than consequences for inappropriate behavior. Because a lot of times those exclusionary practices produce negative environments and bad feelings. I've been in the system for about 25 years, and I don't know any students that actually like getting ISS or OSS, or any administrators that actually like giving out those consequences. So the purpose of positive behavior intervention and supports is actually a framework that give us guidelines on creating positive environments and actually creating rewards for our students. So this was actually pioneered by Dr. Craig Pinello and Dr. Lisa Perkins. And we actually started out with a few pilot schools, and now it's actually a requirement citywide. All right, let's talk about the benefits of positive behavior intervention and supports. First of all, it creates a positive school climate. All of the positive affirmation, the positive rewards, the positive relationships often produce a positive school climate. Positive student-teacher relationships. Again, teachers would much rather reward you for your positive behavior rather than give you consequences. Increase attendance. So that means you're not missing any days because you're in school or out of school for behavior. Increase teacher efficacy. Believe it or not, guys, yes, teachers are human beings too. They don't like, it takes a toll on you having to talk to a student over and over again about, inappropriate behavior. So we will much rather reward you for your positive behavior. Increase student ownership and self-regulation. Consistently hearing positive affirmation helps the student self-regulate and take ownership for their behavior. All right, so let's talk about the PBI's framework. There are 3 tiers of intervention. The first tier is a universal tier, and that often covers 80% of our students. The second tier is tier 2. A lot of times that covers about 15% of our students. And at some schools, we actually have a check-in and check-out system where students that might have some challenges here and there are actually paired with a mentor, and they not only talk about their behavior, their grades, attendance, and just get to know the students. And positive tier 3 is actually 5% of the students, where those students might need some extra TLC. So a lot of times we might refer them to our ESTAT team just to find out, what's actually going on with that student and how can we help them. Again, going back to the PBI's framework, it is filled with positive rewards, whether it's a Mighty Mustang, you might get a ticket or to go to the Mustang market or what have you, but each school is kind of catered to their own school. For example, at my school, we have the Mustang Motto. At Oscar Smith Middle, they have the Tigers Will Roar, the Jolliffe Jaguars is Pressed for Success, the River Rises, and the Hawks Soar. So again, students, we're not out to get you. We actually would rather reward you for your positive behavior than consequences. And at this time, I will turn it back over to Ms. Lerf.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dunbar and Ms. Smith. Before we go on to our next segment, the counselor comments, I would like to stop and check with Ms. Carey to see if we have any questions in relation to the middle school model or PBIS.
Yes, Ms. Lerf, we do. The first question is, does PBIS look different at each school or is it the same?
Actually, it should be universal. It's again, they might cater it to their school based on their needs. But overall, 3 guiding principles are being safe, responsible, and respectful. So those are just 3 guiding principles, but of course they cater it to their schools.
All right, great. And I have one more question. My child talks about joining extracurricular activities, but now seems apprehensive. How will I know what clubs are offered and available to encourage my child to participate?
I would recommend that you reach out to your child's grade level administrator and have a conversation with them about what offerings. And if the child is feeling apprehensive, I'm sure that the school counselor at that school would be happy to make an appointment and go over some of the club offerings in that small setting to make sure that the student is aware of what's offered, what the sign up process is, and how they can join the club. So please just reach out to your school, and I'm sure that the grade level administrator and the school counselor will be glad to get them signed up. A lot of times 6th graders are a little apprehensive, but once they get the information, they usually are the most enthusiastic in the school, and they usually sign up for every single club. And that's because we want them to try and experience as much as they can.
All right, thank you. At this time, we'll turn it over to our counselors for counselor comments. Mrs. Moore and Mrs. Dangerfield.
Hi, everyone. I'm Miss Dangerfield. Again, I'm a counselor at Deep Creek Middle School. So I'm just going to review a few things that are important as far as academics go when you transition to middle school. So first and foremost, everyone should know you should expect it to be different than elementary school. In some respects, it's kind of like your first day of kindergarten, where you have new places, new faces, new teachers, new things to do, and a whole new building to explore. So even if your friends from elementary school are still around, things are going to feel different. Chances are you're going to make new friends, and they will too, but go into this with an open mind, embrace the change, and try things in a new way. So some of the tips that we have for you are to make sure you guys keep track of your schedule and look at your planner every day. Students are always issued a planner at the beginning of the year, and writing in it every class, your homework assignments and upcoming tests is a great way to start that habit. Make sure you also know when the tests are coming up and when big assignments are going to be due. It's your responsibility to make sure that you have your work done on time and be prepared for any tests you may have. Your middle school teachers will have that expectation for you because you are going to be in middle school now. Depending on what your class is and what your teacher requires, sometimes we recommend that you have a separate binder or a separate notebook for each subject. You might even want to color code them so that you know, for instance, that your blue notebook is for civics and your green notebook is for math, and label them. Keep your binders organized and use dividers to separate notes, because the less time it takes you to find your notes, your homeworks, and the study guide, the more time you'll actually have to get things done. Also, it's recommended that you have a dedicated homework space at home. This doesn't have to be a desk and a chair and a computer. However, it needs to be an environment that you're going to commit to and study and do your homework in for the remainder of the year. Keep the desk clear of distractions so that you can sit down and do your homework each day, and make sure you store all of your school supplies in that same location so that you don't have to run around the house looking for a pencil or a pencil sharpener. And that way, when you do want to focus on getting your work done and studying, that everything is right there for you. Another important thing is to learn how to take good notes. Whether or not you've had to do it so far in elementary school, the amount of note taking that you do in middle school is going to be a new experience for you. Good note taking doesn't necessarily mean that you have to write down every single thing that the teacher says. But instead, you want to try to keep your notes organized, start a new sheet every day. Listen to audio cues from your teacher. He or she will tend to vocally emphasize what is the most important thing and will remind you exactly what you need to write down. Make sure you review your notes while you're doing your homework, because that'll also help the information stick to your brain better, especially for when you're doing tests and quizzes. Additionally, learn how to study. Just like note-taking, the amount of studying that is required for middle school will likely be a little bit of a surprise. You may have to study more for some subjects than you do others, but good study skills don't necessarily mean that you have to memorize the entire chapter in your textbook. Make sure that you learn to identify the most important concepts, highlight key themes and thoughts in your notes. And you could even put sticky notes in your textbook or your notebooks to identify key phrases. Additionally, study aids such as flashcards, diagrams have also proven to be very successful with helping students retain the information and then produce a better grade on their test. Some of your test taking strategies, they can be a little bit more complicated than just knowing the material. Make sure that you listen to the instructions that your teachers give you. Make sure you read all of the directions on the test. Do not try to rush, but you need to pace yourself. Make sure that you leave enough time to finish the entire test, but don't keep looking at the clock because that can easily distract you. But instead, figure out how long it might take you to answer each question in the section of a test. And if a question stumps you, put maybe a star by it or notate that and then come back to it later. Another thing is make sure you double check all of your answers. You might have some test anxiety, but when you're more prepared and you understand the material, your anxiety will lessen. Make sure you take a deep breath before you take a test and keep positive thoughts in your mind and know that if you're prepared for the test, you will do well on the test. Additionally, make sure you circle or underline important words. If you know that there's an answer that you're not going to use or that you can automatically cross off, maybe put an X over it. You can also try putting a blank sheet of paper over questions to kind of lessen how much you have to focus on at one time. But make sure that you have answered every question. And of course, as always, if you receive your grade back and it's not exactly what you wanted, speak with your teacher about it. Teachers have different policies, so make sure you identify that and they will be more than likely willing to help you. So that's all I have for test taking strategies and some academic stuff. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Miss Vicki Moore, the counseling director and sixth grade counselor at Western Branch Middle School.
Good evening. I'm here to talk to you tonight about your child's social skills in middle school. Sixth grade is an exciting time, and sometimes it can be very stressful for adolescents due to the many changes in their lives. As we all know, change can be hard, but with parental support, your child can do well and your child can handle it all and even thrive. Making friends is a very important factor in middle school. It's important to your child's wellness and happiness, but you can support him or her by showing interest in the conversations that he or she is having about their friends and about their peer groups. Remind your child that all sixth graders are new to the building, so everyone is looking for just the right peer group. Empathize with your child when he or she seems down or frustrated about making friends, even if the issue seems insignificant to you. Many times, several schools will feed into one middle school, so it's a great time for kids to make new friends and encourage your child to do that. You can do that by encouraging them to have conversations with other children, to look for kids who are looking or wanting to talk to them as well. You can encourage a child to start up a conversation by asking about an assignment that's due, even if they already know the answer. You can tell your child to ask their peers about sports and clubs, or maybe get involved in a sport or a club. That's a great way to make friends with people who have the same interest as they have. And then finally, parents, you can support your children as well by having a routine at the end of the day. Family dinner time is a great way to bring everybody together and have conversations. Ask open-ended questions, such as, tell me something you learned today, but you have to be careful. Make sure you keep your poker face because that conversation may not be about math class. No matter what, show interest, stay engaged. Ask about sports and clubs as well that your child may be interested in joining. And again, encourage your child to do that. This time will go by very, very quickly. Please cherish it, enjoy it, and be a support for your child. Thank you very much. Also, if you have any other questions or concerns, specific questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to your child's school counselor.
Thank you so much for that great advice, counseling team. Lisa, do we have any questions for the school counselors?
Yes, we actually do. The first question is, how should I respond if or when my child is frustrated with one or two of his or her classes? Either one of you can answer that question.
Okay. I would definitely encourage the child to reach out to the counselor. This is a great time to teach your child about advocacy, advocating for themselves. They're growing up and they can come and talk to the teacher, or to the counselor, I should say. And then that teacher and counselor can make a connection with that child. Sometimes it's just a matter of the child expressing themselves and then knowing that they have someone in the building who's supporting them. But it is a great way to teach your child about advocating for himself or herself, and making those connections with adults.
All right, thank you. And so I have another question. Are counselors available to assist with students in concerns with buses, maybe anxiety? How often are counselors available? And what should a child do if they want to speak to the counselor, but say, there's not enough time in the day? I'm trying to get to my next class and I don't have time to talk to my counselor. I'm afraid of asking my teacher. What can they do so that they can get those issues and concerns addressed?
So I know at our school, we have counseling slips that say need to see a counselor. You write your grade level, your homeroom teacher, and just maybe a quick brief description. It doesn't have to go into full detail, but just, hey, I need help with my classes, or I'm having trouble with a friend. And we ask that the teachers put that in our mailbox in the mailroom, and then we collect them each day. Or we also have mailboxes outside of our doors where students can drop the slips, and we will get to them as soon as we can. Again, with like the buses, usually we are out there doing bus duty at my school. We are trying to help students. We have a whole list of their addresses, what bus route they should be on, because we all know that transportation has been kind of crazy right now. So we're out there helping all the time. And as far as anxiety goes, we're definitely available to help as needed. And I know Mrs. Moore can attest to this as well. If, for instance, some reason we are dealing with something that we cannot get to that other student, we will obviously ask our other two counselors in the building, hey, can you help out with this student who's in 6th grade or whatever grade it may be, because my attention's focused on this right now. So we try to become available as much as we can to help students out.
And
Okay.
One other thing I was going to say, and right now with all of the students being assigned Chromebooks, they have a tool right there in their hands that they can reach out to us. If they shoot us an email, that's also another great way, because they have that readily available to them every day.
That was my next question. I was going to ask about email. And it looks like another parent asked, how can they go about getting a planner for their child?
I think that's going to vary from school to school. I know this year our school did not issue planners, and so you would just have to purchase one. But if that's something, this is really the first year that we did not issue planners. And so I feel like if that's something that parents are still interested in, make sure you reach out to the school, let them know that you appreciated that, and that maybe that's something we can get back to next year if they did not. And that could have been for budgetary concerns and things like that. But for this year, make sure you purchase your child a planner. And if you cannot purchase your child a planner, again, reach out to the counselor, because sometimes we have some resources that we can help with those kinds of things too. We have some organizations that donate things as needed.
All right. And then one final question. My child is taking 2 hours or more to complete homework, and then has extracurricular activities such as sports. What do you recommend as far from a parent aspect, how we can get both of those things accomplished?
Sometimes, again, it's just a matter of have your child go to the counselor, start there. And sometimes it's just the communication. If the counselor communicates with the teachers, sometimes we can find out that the homework should not be taken. Usually we find out the homework should not be taking as long. The teachers do operate on a teaming system. So generally they work together with the assignments. And so many times we find that those assignments should not be taking the child as long as it is. And so it could be just a miscommunication as to what they thought they had to do, what they're thinking they have to do, or what's involved with it. However, if it is an issue or continues to be an issue, then the counselor can, of course, talk to the teachers about what homework loads they're having and making sure they understand that the kids are having these issues. So we're not trying to make it, the teachers are not trying to make it hard for the kids, but they want to be consistent and give them good habits.
All right, thank you. So at this time, we'll go on with teacher tips with Mrs. Small and Mrs. Heron. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Angela Small, and I'm the 6th grade civics teacher at Great Bridge Middle School. And I'm going to talk to you about what you can expect in the typical 6th grade classroom. For starters, they're going to have 7 bells this year in 6th grade. That means they're going to have 4 core subjects, your English, math, science, and civics, a Core Plus class, which is a class in which we work on academic support, enrichment for each one of our core subjects, and they will have 2 elective classes. The students will also transition after each bell, so they will need to transport all their necessary supplies from one class to the next. Another helpful tool that we can tell you is to check Schoology every day for your assignments, and also check Synergy, which is also known as Student View and Parent View, for all of your grades. Anytime you submit makeup work or missing assignments, it's always a good idea to email your teachers to let them know that you've submitted it. And finally, make sure, as the counselor spoke, that you write down all homework, maybe make a note of all the tests and quiz dates in your planners. And parents, we feel that a good idea would be for you to also check behind your child by checking Schoology each day to verify that he or she completed the homework. Now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Veronica Herring to discuss the special education piece.
Thank you, Ms. Small. Hi, my name is Veronica Herron, and I am a special education teacher at Greenbrier Middle School. And some things that I felt were important for a special education parent to know was that by this time in the school year, you should already know who your child's case manager is. And if you don't, please reach out to your student's guidance counselor and or the assistant principal in charge of special education at your child's school so that they can make sure you have been made aware of who your child's case manager is. It's very important that you know who the case manager is and that you are in contact with them at this point in the school year. You know, if possible, and I know, you know, school has already started, but maybe for the future school years, you can ask to meet with the case manager ahead of school starting, especially if you know if your child is one that, you know, needs to meet their case manager and kind of get to know them. Just, you know, if you're wanting to, you know, step off on the right foot and kind of let your case manager and your child's teacher just know about your child and kind of relay them information. And that way, you know, you feel more comfortable starting the school year knowing that the teachers and the case manager know about your child and, you know, everything is done ahead of time. If you're not happy with how things are going, either behaviorally with your child or academically, you have the right to ask for an IEP meeting. Either send the case manager an email stating you'd like to meet. You can call them, however means, you know, that you can get in touch with them and ask for an IEP meeting. And like I said, you do have that right as a parent of a student with a disability. And then finally, keep the teachers in the loop as to what is going on with your child. If something happened that morning before the child left for school, maybe you noticed they were off, maybe they forgot their medication, or, you know, things are just going on, please keep us informed. That way we know how to adjust our day to better help your child. And we're not kind of left in the dark guessing what's going on. You know, we can be better prepare to work with your child if we know, you know, what's going on. We're not asking you to divulge very personal information, but if you can better assist us with what's going on with your child, then it makes it helps us help your child in the long run. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lerf, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much to our fantastic teachers for all of that information. Let's do another pulse check to see if any questions have come in. Parents, as a reminder, please put any questions into the Q&A prior to the end of our webinar. We will answer all questions either live or through personal email. So at this time, Ms. Carey, do we have any questions?
Yes, I do. I have one question for Ms. Herron. I want to change the goal in my child's IEP. Do I have to wait for the reevaluation day, or can I do that at any time?
No, you absolutely can do that anytime. All you have to do is notify the case manager that you want to hold an IEP meeting, and that can be done. You just want to request that you want to look at the goals, and an IEP meeting can be scheduled and held so that you can look at the data and discuss with the IEP team whether or not that goal should be changed and why it should be changed.
Okay.
And an IEP team can be convened and be discussed.
Great. Okay. And the next question, Mrs. Smalls, will grades be in the grades that are in Schoology? Are they also in Parent View?
Well, the grades that are in Schoology are generally for any assignments that were given through Schoology. But all of the grades that the student may have in Parent View, it may generally be more grades, because if we do things like hands-on activities that involve papers or projects, and it wasn't an assignment that Schoology actually graded, then you're going to find that in Parent View. So we always tell parents to start with Parent View instead of just Schoology, because some teachers use both together, and some teachers move more towards Parent View. But I would definitely check Parent View as my primary source, because it will have all the grades that your child has.
All right, great, thank you. And then the next question is, when I have a concern about one of my child's classes, do I have to meet with the entire team, or can I meet with just that teacher?
I think that maybe a school policy. Like at my school, we don't have one-on-one conferences. We always meet as a team. And if a parent only has one particular teacher in mind, then we all will come and bring our input about the child, and then the parent can address any questions that they have to individual teachers as well as the team. But I believe that maybe on a school level, some schools may allow it, but at my school, we always have to meet as a team.
Okay, and then a parent stated that they signed in a bit late, but is there anything that could be, is there something that states the dress code for classes?
If the student looks in, there's a student handbook that is in Schoology. At my school, we've uploaded it into Schoology so that parents and the students can have access to it. And it talks about the dress code as well as any other school policies. But anytime a parent, if you have a question in mind in particular, you can always email any of your child's teachers, or you can email any of your grade level administrators if you just had a specific question in mind. But if you can look into the student handbook, then you'll see all the policies about dress code, honor roll, credentials, and everything.
All right, thank you. So that seems to be all the questions we have now. So I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Donner for technology tools. Ms. Donner, welcome.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about technology tools that are available to you and your child. Every middle school student was encouraged to check out a CPS Chromebook that they are to take back and forth between home and school each day. And with that comes responsibility. Students are responsible for the Chromebook, the power cord, and the case. They must keep up with these items and care for them. The Chromebook should be brought to school every day with a fully charged battery. We have students bringing their Chromebooks to school, but unfortunately they bring them sometimes and the battery has no power. And our teachers do not have the resources in their classrooms to allow students to charge their Chromebooks. Also, since most of our students' schoolwork is now conducted online, middle school students should realize the importance of remembering passwords, using netiquette or proper online behavior, and like our counseling team mentioned earlier, the importance of having open communication with their teachers. Related to this is they should understand that there's a proper way to send an email to a teacher. And it's not like when they text a friend. They need to know that they use a subject line, include a greeting, proper spelling and grammar, include a closing, and their name is the signature. The CPS website has resources that relate to digital citizenship, and I'd like to show you how to access those. If you navigate to cpschools.com, which is our school's website address, on the home page, you'll see at the top directory. You click on directory and then click teaching and learning. From there, you will see a tab named Instructional Resources and Technology, and under that is Internet Safety and Internet Safety Curriculum Resources. Here you will find websites that provide information on internet safety and digital citizenship. The CPS website also contains some very useful content about Chromebook care. To access this, you would click the same directory found on the home page and then choose Technology. You'd click Student One-to-One Devices and any of the links, and you will find some really good video and article resources. Next slide. For example, if you click Chromebook cache clearing, this will link to directions students can follow as the first line of defense when there is a problem with the Chromebook. Clearing the cache will solve many issues that students may experience, and it's always the first thing that the IT department within the school uses to troubleshoot a Chromebook. Schoology and Synergy were mentioned earlier and are very important. Schoology is our learning management system. This is where teachers organize materials for their lessons and assignments. As a parent, you can gain access to Schoology through your own account. When you go in and view a course, you should see materials and assignments organized in a weekly folder, and that folder will contain separate color-coded folders for each day of the week. If you don't already have an account, please contact any of your child's teachers for your access code. If you do have an account, you will not need to renew this account. It follows the child throughout their career in Chesapeake Public Schools. With your Schoology account, you can click on your students' assignments to see if they were submitted. You can also see their responses, but in the parent account, you're not going to see grades. Synergy is the teacher's grade book of record. It is where attendance is kept too. That is where you want to go to see your students' official grades. And when you are looking in the Synergy gradebook, be sure that you're looking at the correct marking period. Your Synergy account is called Parent View. Sorry. This is where you need to go for the students' grades. If you don't have an account already, you can contact your school's guidance department. Students have a Synergy account too. It is called Student View. They access it through one login. Middle school students should be checking their gradebook in Synergy regularly so that they are aware of their standings in their courses. There shouldn't be any surprises on interim reports or report cards. Chesapeake Public Schools subscribes to a few applications that may prove beneficial when your child is completing projects at home. For example, every student has a WeVideo account. This is a video editing website. So if your child has a project to do and wants to create a video to complete that project, he or she will have the tools necessary to do that. They also have access to many Google products. Google Slides and Google Sites could be useful for completing projects at home. And it was noted earlier that not every school gave out planners to students this year. If your student doesn't have a planner, an option could be to use Google Docs to create a homework doc, and your student can record homework assignments on that document. And then if your child shares this doc with you, you can see what's on it at any time. If you're looking for information, The most reliable sources are our district and individual school websites. Most schools allow you to enter your name and email address on their site so you get notifications of new posts. And it was asked earlier about the student handbook. I'm pretty sure that most schools will have posted that handbook on their websites. Each school also has sanctioned social media accounts that you can follow. Thank you for your attention. I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Lerf.
Thank you so much, Ms. Donner, for all of those helpful tips, especially in this day and age that we're in. So while we give our parents a few minutes to think of any last minute questions, I'd like the students to participate in a survey. So we will randomly select 3 winners to earn a prize. So Ms. Carey, do you want to go ahead and kick off the survey?
Sure. Okay, so the first question is, which of the following is not a benefit of PBIS? Is it positive relationships, increased attendance, increased ISS or OSS, or positive school climate? And you can put in your answer there. The next one is, which of the following is not an example of a study skill? And let's see, I want to make sure that we can all make sure we can see this. Using flashcards, animation, make your own test, or create mnemonics. And the next one, choose any tip below that is a good practice for a middle school student. Check Schoology and Synergy every day. Email the teacher when you complete makeup work. Write down all homework, projects, events in the planner, or start projects the night before. And you can choose more than one for that one. And again, the next one for number 4, you can also choose multiple answers for this one as well. Where can you find information related to school and school events? CPS Help Desk, CPS website, or school social media? And we also have school websites, school websites. So we'll let that poll keep going for a little while. And again, we're going to select randomly 3 winners to earn a prize, and we'll send that prize to your home school. All right, Ms. Lerf, are we ready to do the questions? I've got some more questions popping in.
All right, so I'm thinking that our survey went away. You gotta love technology. So we will make sure to send that out because we were super excited to give away some prizes to our students who are watching tonight and getting all of this great information. So the survey will be sent out to everyone who was registered for the webinar, and then we will collect our winners once we get the survey results. So thank you guys so much for your patience.
Ms. Lerf, I also left the poll up so it can run just a few more minutes and then I'll end it, if that's okay. Okay.
So at this time, we'd like to invite all of our panelists to come back to the screen for a final Q&A session. So Ms. Carey, before we conclude, do we have any additional questions?
Yes, we do. So when will students be able to pick their electives?
I'm happy to answer that. Usually during the month of like late January, early February, middle school staff will either physically go to the elementary schools, the feeder schools, or last year because of COVID, we did a Zoom meet and greet. And it was an information session with the student and the parents, just to kind of give them a breakdown of the electives, how elective scheduling works. And then the students will be able to select their courses, including their electives at their elementary school. And from there, parents will have to verify the choices of the classes that the students have made through their parent view and student view. And then once you verify it, then that's when your child will have those courses registered for next year.
All right, perfect. So I've got another question. This is a Schoology question, and it's kind of two-part. So the first one is, I noticed that my Schoology account is different from my son's Schoology account. Which account should I use to reference my child's activities and work at school? And additionally, how often should I be checking Schoology? It's either one of the guidance counselors could answer that, or maybe a teacher.
Well, I can speak on checking. How often should you check? I would say if there's homework and you have the availability to check maybe in the afternoon to make sure that there's not any assignment that maybe your child hasn't submitted. Maybe if your child says, I've done my homework, then you can ask them to pull it up and you can see it through their Schoology account. I'm actually not knowledgeable of the parents' view of Schoology. I can only speak on the students' view, and that's because I'm able to go into my classrooms and see it from a student's view. The students have a view of all the assignments that we've been given, but I'm not familiar with what exactly the parent sees when they open up their own Schoology account. But I would definitely check it as often as you can if you want to understand what the assignments are. And most teachers, we put everything in the Schoology folders. Like for any student, especially who's absent, they can click on the folder and you can see everything that we've done for the most part. And that way you can continue to be with us even when you're at home. But I'm not sure of how the parents' view of Schoology looks.
I do know that
I'm not
parents
sure.
can see the folders with the assignments in them. They can click on an assignment to see whether it was submitted, and they can see the students' responses.
And one thing I would like to add is that parents should know that there is a slight difference between grades in Schoology and grades in Parent View. There's a delay. And so your most accurate view of the grades is going to be in Parent View. So if you would like to know what the current grade is, make sure that you go to Parent View.
All right, great. This was great information. And again, as our panelists have stated, Parent View is the go-to for your grades, parents. At this time, I'd like to turn the program back over to Mrs. Lerf.
All right, thank you so much. So this concludes tonight's webinar, Transitioning to Middle School. We hope you've learned valuable information that will help your child navigate middle school. As always, if you have any questions or concerns regarding your child, please contact the school counselor as your first point of contact. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and remember to follow us on Twitter at CPSBase. Remember, families and communities work better together. Have a great evening, everyone. Good night.